Hello. So for the past few videos, I've been making notes on different parts of the body, and today's video is going to be on legs. I've been trying to figure out the best way to structure these videos, and I think I've finally figured out like a good process of drawing the parts of the body and just like drawing them in any different pose and angles and stuff. So the first part of this video is just going to be the gesture that I like using, and then second we're going to go into just adding the form or like the three-dimensional basic shapes. It could be both 2D or 3D, but I like to focus on forms and volume when I draw. And then 3, I'm going to talk about the anatomy. 4, I'm going to basically apply these 3 steps to a bunch of different poses. Because I'm starting with gesture, because gesture is the best way to make a character look like they're having movement. So for the legs, I want to start off with the hips. The shape I use for the hips is like a cup, like this, and then I kind of break it down. And that's basically that V shape of the hip. And right here is where the legs would start for me. You could make it wider for a girl because they have like larger hips generally. And then for the front of the legs, the gesture I do is go like this. I go 2 lines inwards and then line out, and then from some point over here I kind of make this like duckbill like shape. Now, when I'm at the anatomy, you're gonna figure out what parts of the leg this is. So this would be the knee, this middle point. So I'm gonna add, well, I started off wide on this one, so I'm gonna add that part there. Right here is where we get the inner thighs kind of coming out. It follows this shape. And then this is our calf now, so I just have to add a little gap there. Bam. Same for the other leg. And then when you look at the leg from the front, the ankle, the higher part of the ankle is like this. So we're doing that now. And then we got our foot, which you could just draw our toe on the inside part of the leg. Boom. So here's a simple shape of the leg from the front. So from the side, the gesture I would go for is like a wider C. And then we have this kind of gap over here, or you could just make a straight line. And then from the top, you could just kind of make an S curve. And then straight line. And that's the side of the leg. And then I'm going to add what would be the hip, which is just a circle in this case. And then we have the back. So this is our thigh now. And because it's so close to the leg, there you go. It's important to add this like square shape here. And this is our calf. I'm gonna fix the back a little bit more. Erase some of the gesture line. So that's the gesture of the leg. So for the front, you could just go like this, a little line there. And then you add your duck bill for the front, and you do that on both sides. And the side, we have a bigger kind of line, straight line, or whatever way you want to indicate the knee. And then from there, you just a nice sweeping line down. And that's the side of the back of the leg. If you want to add a little bit more anatomy, you could always just add this little box here to indicate that that's where the calf would be, or like the back heel would go. Now that we did gestures, we could move on to simplifying the anatomy and stuff of the leg into some basic shapes that you can use to make multiple different poses. So the leg can be split by the top of the leg. So for that, I'm just going to make a really basic rectangle, a circle for the knee, the bottom of the leg, which is a more narrow rectangle, and then the foot, which I like to do a wedge shape. So this is a really basic 2D shape. But the problem with making it like just this is we don't actually have like the forms of the leg coming through. So when I try to think of it, with form, I'm going to start with a more wider area. It kind of starts like this. So this is basically the hip, and from the hip I'm just going to have it shaped down to a little narrow part. So it kind of tapers down. I'm going to add that circle for the knee, and then it gets a wider, starts off wide and tapers down again to make the ankle part, and we're adding our foot, which is still going to be that web shape. So now I want to try applying these flat 2D shapes into a more three-dimensional character. So for the hip itself, I'm going to start, you could either start with a square like this, and you could change that into a cube, or you could start with the oval and change that into a cube. Or there's a good in-between that you can get by just kind of curving the edges. So you have like a more of a kind of cube that has a few kind of curved corners. A softer cube, I would say. Now let's apply these shapes more three-dimensionally. So this one is fairly simple. It's going to be a cylinder, a sphere, a cylinder, and more like a wedge shape. So from the side, this would basically be like this, and then a little bit of a rectangle at the back to indicate the hue. And then I'm going to add, right, and that's a leg, another leg. Very simple leg from the side, technically. So let's make these more three-dimensional. So if I were to draw a person, let's say they're like, this is their hip. I wanted to maybe add them kicking up. So I'm already thinking in 3D for the shape itself. So, and I'm trying to get my shorthand. So this is the upper leg. Lower leg. I'm already kind of adding the anatomy because I'm just used to it, but I'm simplifying it as much as possible. And then the cylinder for the, the sphere for the knee. Add the top part of that calf cylinder right here. Same for this one. You might notice that I'm drawing through. There we go. Now for the foot, I'm trying to think of what side I want to point it. So I'm going to point it kind of downwards. I'm going to add that square right there. There. So this is a three-dimensional version of the leg. I'm going to fix it up. This is without adding too much anatomy. So once you learn the anatomy, you'll start to kind of sketch them in while you're doing this 3D, like three-dimensional form step. But that's basically why we're trying to break it down into simple shapes first. So when you add anatomy, you just apply it naturally without really thinking too much. So let's try another pose, or I want to just try a basic standing pose. So hips, I'm going to do a very simple triangle, and then this, and then maybe this one is pointing towards us, just to make it easier for me. And I have my circles for my knees. Basic rectangular kind of shape with a little bit of getting a little smaller as you go further down. I'm going to draw the top part of my calf tube, basically, of my cylinder for my calf, or the bottom part of the leg. I know just because of anatomy, this would be more straight and not have as much of a curve as the other sides, but it does taper a little. There. Let's try another pose. For this one, I'm going to kind of start with drawing the body because it does help. And this is my hip, so there. Next, I'm going to add my circle to get my basic shape here. And I add one for this leg. This is like a kind of fire pose. Really trying to fight the anatomy drawing part of this. I'm gonna add the top part of my cylinder for the lower legs. There. Just correct here. There. Then the lower leg would be like this. This one has a little bit of a heel. Because the toes are bent. And then I would add my anatomy on top of this. But for now, it's just going to be the simplified. So that's how you would simplify the leg into more three-dimensional shapes and apply them to different poses. Once you have a cool shorthand to drawing legs, and you could draw the basic shapes of the legs. So I'm going to do that cup shape and kind of draw a quick sketch of a leg in kind of like a 3/4. So if this is a quick sketch of the leg, the anatomy that we'll show, so this is the hip basically, is that kind of that arrow shape of where the leg starts. We're going to have the side showing a little bit of the butt, and then we see the leg kind of come out. Now from kind of this top part of the hip, you can basically draw a line diagonally towards the inner part of the leg that has a muscle that kind of has this shape. And then the inside, you can see this is a separate shape of the inner leg. It'll be easier to see when I draw this leg, but for now, just remember that from the top part of the hip, you have this band-like shape that goes all the way down and kind of bends towards the knee. Now the knee muscle, there is a muscle that kind of wraps around the knee. Wraps around the knee and creates this kind of triangular shape. So when you see a stronger, more muscular person, you'll be able to see that more triangular shape. So that shape is made by the two vastus muscles. So within this, there's basically like a muscle that's like here, and it kind of, you see the bone that goes all the way like there, and there's a muscle that basically follows that ribbon shape, like there. That kind of goes down like this. But the more important shape you can get is this triangle to create the indication of those three muscles at the top on the top part of the leg. And then a really important thing is you can really see the bottom of the kneecap, and you could really see the tibia, sorry, which is just a larger bone that you can kind of see in the fronts of your legs, that like hard bone shape, or it's like straight line when you look at it from the side. And then we have our ankle, which is the end of that tibia. Always remember, the inner part is higher while the outer part is lower, so it always angles like this. So because this is the back of a knee, we have this little ribbony kind of like a connection point between the upper leg and the bottom leg. And you see a little bit of the calves come out here. And the calf is much bigger on this end. So that is the quick anatomy of the leg from the front. So I'm going to indicate that these are the calves and they're behind the bone. I'll do a quick drawing of the calf from the back later, but for now, I just want to make sure that people can see this angle from the upper ankle to the lower ankle, and then even for the calves, when you look at it straight on, the inner one is lower than the upper one. So, the inner calf is lower than the outer calf, and the outer calf is in different angles. You'll see one calf more outwards than the other, but in this angle, the outer calf is more prominent because you could see the side of the leg a little. Then I'm just going to add my foot, which just a little shape of a duckbill kind of. I try to keep it a little wide, and the inner part is where the toe is. There we go. Now, for the other leg, you're going to see more of the inner part. So you see a little bit of the glute come in. We see that upper muscle that kind of connects to the knee. Now I'm going to indicate that thing from the corner of the hip, going all the way down, that band that goes behind the leg a little. There you go. Now for the knee, there's a lot of shapes people use for the knee. But basically the knee is like this, right? So at different angles, it changes where it points. But if you think of it as 2 cylinders, or you could think of it as a cube that has like a split. So let me just indicate that, something like that. So there's many ways to indicate the knee, but you just have to make sure you have the top be a little larger and the bottom kind of get a little smaller. And there's this cap part that you can kind of see if I shade that in a little. There. Now, for the lower part of the leg on this one, just because of the way it's facing, you can see the inner one a lot more than the outer one, and I'm paying attention to that angle there. The outer knee, the outer calf or front leg. And we're going to have our ankle be higher, a little bit like this. The inner ankle is higher than the outer ankle, and you can see it indicated. Also, I'm going to add that indication of the humerus bone. And boom. You can see from the side, I'm actually indicating the, not well, but I'm going to indicate better here. The back of the heel. A good way to kind of shorthand that is whenever you draw a foot, just think of it as a box, a kind of rectangle, and then a triangle. Triangle down, and that's like the basic shape. And this center is basically the bone. And that would be your ankle right there. And then if I were to do this, there's the muscle here. I'm gonna draw the inner ankle. This is the inside of the foot, so there's a little bit of a heel lift. There. I feel like the portions of this foot are bad, but I think I fixed it well enough. And this is that inner muscle. Basically, these two are the same muscle, and you can see it come in right here. Oops. This is a little bit back of the butt, crotch. Indication of the knee, the calf. From the iliac crest, or the top of the hips, you would indicate this muscle basically is going to pop out a little more. Yeah. And add my shading. There we go. And that is like what parts of the leg kind of show. So I'm going to show like if you draw the back of the leg now, or the calf muscle itself. So from the back, if I were to draw a leg, let me quickly do the same thing I did with this, but I'm going to just do the back. This one's going to be a little faster. This is the butt I'm basically indicating. You have that triangle where the spine kind of goes like this. And we have a little bit of the torso. There we go. There's our spine. There's our glutes. It goes in a little more. This is the start of the calf. So I'm going to indicate this muscle here, which would be like this one, but because we're looking at the inside, the back, you could kind of see it come. You could kind of see it more. The glute muscle kind of pulls right there. Okay, there we go. Oops, I'm going to draw it a bit rushed. This is another front muscle that you can see from the back. This muscle right here is this. There you go. Then we have our calves, where, as I said, angles more like here. Back of the knees are very simple. You don't really see them because it's all blocked. Or, yeah, when you draw them, they kind of look like a gaping hole like this. You can see like somewhat of where the muscles start, but you don't really need to indicate it much. You can see me using those as a guide, even for my quick sketch here. And then we have our calf, which you see this bulge over here, and it kind of looks like that, like a chicken leg kind of. Boom, boom, bam. And this would be our heel. And as always, as I show here, the inner ankle is what's higher, so I'm gonna boop, like that. And then a little bit of the foot right there. You got our heel and the feet. Same for this one, heel. You got our ankle right there, angled out, and our feet. Got an indication of it. Even though it's back. Okay. I'm going to darken out my lines just to indicate the muscles. So we have our glute muscle that goes all the way down as one nice shape that you can use. You have these side muscles here. And we have our calves, which it's basically an upside down heart. And you just have to pay attention to the angle. Always making sure that the inner part is always lower than the outer part. On the back, the inner part is a lot more prominent than the outer part too. Just the nature of the muscle itself, or the shape. And then you got to pay attention to the way the ankle bones are kind of protruding. Let's draw a few poses of legs using the method that I was trying out today. So number one is gesture, and then you add in your basic shapes. And then from there, you add a little bit indications of anatomy to get your basic final drawing of a leg. And you could use this for any part of the body. Now, putting all of the steps together, I'm starting off with the gesture. Quick indication of the hip and the upper and lower leg with the feet. Now from there, I'm adding in my basic shapes while also kind of applying the anatomy, so you can see the indication of the butt and stuff like that, and the knees. On the back leg, I started off with the knee and I added the ankles first before I added like the structure of the leg itself and the base shape. And just by doing a lot of practice, starting with the gesture, then simple shapes, and moving towards the anatomy, you'll be able to quickly find shortcuts and ways for you to simplify the drawing process of drawing different parts of the body itself. And that's when you know you can learn more detailed anatomy and kind of add them on to your skills, and slowly but surely you'll be able to draw any pose for any part of the body. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and more videos coming soon. Thanks. Bye.